I welcome you all here to our 9/11 service for the town of Hempstead. As I said, this is the 20th anniversary, and we're going to take the time to remember the victims of September 11th, 2001, those who perished that day, the heroes that we have lost since, the friends, the neighbors, the clergy, the family members of the victims, the first responders, and all of you, thank you for joining us for this meaningful program where in the town of Hempstead, when we say it, and I know everybody here means it, we never forget.
God of understanding, overwhelmed by the magnitude of this tragedy, we seek your light and guidance as we confront such terrible events. Comfort and console us, strengthen us in hope, and give us the wisdom and courage to work tirelessly for a world where true peace and love reign among all nations, and in the hearts of all. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
20 years ago this very morning, at 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11, carrying 92 people from Boston to Los Angeles, was hijacked by terrorists and crashed in the North Tower of the World Trade Center around the 80th floor. Shortly thereafter, hijacked United Airlines Flight 175 from Boston to Los Angeles, carrying 65 people, crashed between the floors of 77 and 85 of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. All 65 people were killed. Within 1 hour of the impact, the South Tower collapsed, followed by the collapse of the North Tower just 20 minutes later at approximately 10:28 a.m. In Lower Manhattan, the iconic Twin Towers lay in ruins and over 2,600 people died, including 343 firefighters. At 9:30 a.m., hijackers crashed American Airlines Flight 77 into the Pentagon, killing all 64 people aboard and 125 people in that building. And at 10:03 a.m., heroic passengers on board United Airlines Flight 93 fought against those terrorists who had taken control of their plane, crashing it into a field in Pennsylvania before it could reach its intended target somewhere in the vicinity of Washington, D.C. All 44 lost their lives. But the story of the lives is not about the cowards who attacked our nation, but it's about the Americans who rose up to be heroes. And the first responders, the military personnel, the everyday men and women who went into the danger to put their lives on line to save others. As many of you will never forget the tragic events of that day and the toll it took on so many of our neighbors, our friends, our family, our colleagues, and our nation. It certainly took a toll on our nation, and what makes this event so meaningful and special, it's joining here as a Town of Hempstead family to remember those heroes, the victims, and really unify as Americans. But what came in the wake of attacks after 9/11 was a period of unity, strength, and patriotism as Americans. It was the brave men and women who spent months on ground zero in the local landfills and facilities aiding in the recovery efforts, searching day and night to help bring closure to families of the missing loved ones. We never forget the men and women of the military who put their lives on the line for 2 decades since 9/11 to protect our freedoms as Americans and lead the fight against terrorism and our enemies abroad. So many people stepped up in the wake of the attacks and certainly demonstrated what it is truly to be an American. Prior to the town's very first 9/11 program, I met a young lady who was then at the age of 14, Tara from Garden City. And she was inspired to take on a project that would later be called the Seeds of September, a symbolic quilt which represents all 50 states and demonstrates our unity as a nation. It was presented at the town's very first event in 2002. It was created thanks to a group of local senior citizens, all of them who had lost somebody at 9/11 in some way. Well, Tara's father, Jim, was nice enough to bring that quilt back for the 20th anniversary as a way to mark this occasion, taking a step back to the very first program that took place.
But it's also important that we make sure that our children and our children's children, that they know that we are in this together, whether it's continuing to remember the horrors of 9/11, whether it is getting through this COVID epidemic. Senator Alphonse D'Amato and I talk about that. Whether it's understanding that as we move forward, we have to remember, if we stick together, there is nothing that we can't get through We are resilient, we are New Yorkers, we are Americans, and we will make sure that no matter what comes our way, that if we stick together and we fight together, we will make it through to the other side. I plan on being here with you every year as long as I'm your Lieutenant Governor, and thank you for having me this morning. Take care.
He was in the lobby of Tower 2, and he was giving first aid to a woman who was severely burned. The tower collapsed on Tommy and two other of the court officers. We never got the opportunity to say goodbye. We never got the opportunity to bury his body, his DNA. He was one of those. We only recovered his pistol and his shield. And when we think about that day, we think about, again, the pain, the sorrow, the horror. But I would be lying if I didn't tell you we also had anger. Anger for what happened. Anger that people would attack this great nation. They didn't attack a military installation. Their target was civilians. Because we love freedom, because we love liberty, and because we'll fight for it. And these are values that were not shared by these evil murderers.
This is from Rabbi Mordecai Kamenetsky of the Yeshiva South Shore. Honored guests, cherished family members who continue to remember as they continue to grieve, and all of you who joined today who feel the collective pain of that terrible day, September 11th. It may have broken the heart of America, but that fateful day kindled a spirit of kinship and love that will never die. As you all know, today is the Jewish Sabbath, and thus, according to my faithfulness to the Shulchan Aruch, the code of the Jewish law, I cannot drive to Point Lookout today. Walking would be impossible, and thus I cannot be with you in person. But I and every member of the Jewish clergy and of the Jewish faith are here with you in spirit. We share in your pain as it is our pain. We share in your grief, for it is ours. And we share in the spirit of love and unity that binds us together as great Americans. Rest assured that the spirit of the day and the memories of all the great men and women and children who perished on that day is deeply felt in the heart of your brethren, whether at home or in shul. They will be remembered in our hearts and in our prayers, not only today, but each and every day.
Each 9/11 anniversary, he made sure to honor those who were lost that day. And we made sure to be thankful that he came home. On November 8th, 2018, we were abruptly reminded that the everlasting effects of the day were never going away. At about 4:30 in the morning, I woke up to my father suffering from a grand mal seizure. He was immediately rushed to the hospital where a CAT scan revealed a mass in his brain. After 2 weeks of MRIs, testing, and surgery, my father was diagnosed with a grade 3 anaplastic astrocytoma brain tumor. It was an aggressive form of brain cancer, and the doctors at Memorial Sloan Kettering informed my family that this type of cancer was directly linked to his time spent at Ground Zero. The prognosis for brain cancer is bleak. Only 25 of those diagnosed survived more than a year. And knowing all this, my father did what he always did, and he faced the challenge and took it head on. After his initial brain surgery, we spent about a week in the hospital. I would spend the evenings with him and stay overnight by his bedside. Most nights I would sit awake watching him sleep. One night he fell asleep with the TV on, and I just sat there wondering why it had happening to him. Why did he decide to spend so much time down at Ground Zero? He was a high-ranking member of the NYPD. He was a 20-year man and could have left at any time. He woke up, looked at me with tears streaming down my face, and asked me why I was so upset. I finally asked him all these questions that had been overtaking my thoughts for those few days. It was very rare for him to ever speak to me about 9/11, but that night he got up, looked me in the eye and told me through his entire 27 years serving with the New York City Police Department, the moment he was most proud of was the time he spent down at Ground Zero. He told me that he wouldn't have changed anything, and even if he had known that this is where he would end up, he would do everything the same. On December 6, 2019, almost 13 months after diagnosis, my father died in his sleep, free of regrets and free of all his pain. Although I miss my dad very much, I stand here today honored and proud to call Vincent DiMarino my dad.
Today we have gathered all across this great land after 20 years to honor the memory of every loved one who lost their life on the battlefield of Ground Zero and those who have transitioned after 9/11 as a result of their being on site on that fateful day. For those who were counting on us to put 9/11 behind us and forget our loved ones, take a good look. Here we are, 20 years later, and yet holding the line, sharing in a unified effort from all walks of life, sharing that great and powerful bond of what true American patriotism is all about, that our strength, our love, and our commitment to American way of life has not waned, but has grown much larger and more committed than ever.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
I look out and I just see all of you here today standing, and you know what? We live in a wonderful country. We're very, very blessed. We are fortunate people. Let me thank you for joining us here today. Let me say, God bless our troops. God bless our first responders. God bless the family members that have lost their loved ones. God bless all of those lost souls and the souls we continue to lose. And more importantly, God bless America.